Good afternoon. Today we will discuss about the pericardium. Pericardium, it is the outer covering to the heart. It has two layers. The outer one, it is a single layer. It is called the fibrous pericardium. I just cut the fibrous pericardium. You can see this is a fibrous pericardium. And another layer, it is called the serous pericardium. It has two layers, which blend with the heart itself. Outer layer of the heart, it is called the visceral layer, and inner to the fibrous pericardium, it is called the parietal pericardium. So pericardium has two layers. Outer, it is called the fibrous pericardium, and inner it is called the serous pericardium. And serous pericardium has two layers. Just inside the fibrous pericardium, it is called the parietal layer of the serous pericardium, and this is a visceral pericardium. These are the two layers, and in between the visceral and parietal layers there is a potential space, and in between there is a pericardial fluid which prevents the friction during the heartbeat, and during the expansion of the heart and contraction and relaxation of the heart. It prevents the frictions, and it is act as a lubricant. So this is the pericardial cavity and layers of the pericardium. Now the function of the pericardium, mainly it protects the heart from the shock, restriction of the excessive movement of the heart, which prevents the excessive expansion of the heart. It prevents the over expansion of the heart when the blood volume increase from the peripheral part of the body to the heart, and it prevents the kicking of the great blood vessels and minimize the frictions between heart and surrounding structures. And also it is act as a mechanical barrier to spread the infection of the surrounding organ to the heart or heart to the other organs. Now we will discuss about the development the fibrous pericardium and this inner layer of the serous pericardium. It is a parietal layer of the serous pericardium. It is developed from the somatopleuric intraamniotic mesoderms, while the visceral pericardium, it is developed from the splanchnopluric intraamniotic mesoderms. So this is the development of the pericardium. Now we will discuss about the features of the fibrous pericardium. It is a conical and has a apex and base. It is a completely covered to the heart and great vessels of the heart. So you can see here the apex is directed above, and it is blend with the great vessels. This is the apex of the fibrous pericardium, and it is blend with the great vessels, mainly this aorta, pulmonary trunk, and on that side here you can see this is a superior vena cava, and inferiorly you can see this is the inferior vena cava, and also with the pulmonary veins on the left atriums. So this is the pulmonary veins. So base, it is broad. This is the base of the fibrous pericardium. It is broad, and it is firmly adherent to the central tendon of the diaphragm, because the fibrous pericardium also say that it is also developed from the septum transversum, and diaphragm also developed from the septum transversum. So the interior surface of the fibrous pericardium, which is firmly adherent to the diaphragm, and anteriorly it is connected with the, here there is anteriorly there is a sternum. We have already removed the sternum. So anteriorly the fibrous pericardium, which is attached with the two ligament, it is the superior sternopericardial and inferior sternopericardial ligament. And posteriorly I just remove the heart, and you can see posteriorly it is related with the two trachea and two terminal bronchi. Here you can see this is a esophagus, and 3 to 6 vertebral columns are also related with the and descending thoracic aorta on the left side. So this is the structure which lies behind to the fibrous pericardium. It is the trachea, esophagus, and also vertebral column, and there is a descending thoracic aorta. And the fibrous pericardium on each side, it is related with the lung by the it is related with the mediastinal surface of the pleura. So here the lung which is covered by the mediastinal surface of the pleura, and there is a presence of phrenic and pericardiophenic vessels. So this is the phrenic nerve, you can see here. So on the both side there is a phrenic nerve which is related on each side by the phrenic nerve, and also there is a presence of mediastinal pleura which is covered to the lung. So this is about to the characteristic of the fibrous pericardium. Now I will take the heart from the thoracic cavity into the outer side, and I will discuss about the two sinuses. One is the transverse sinus. My finger, it is coming inside the transverse sinus, but right now you have to remember this is the sternocostal surface, this is the arch of aorta, this is the right side. You have to remember this is the right side of, and this is the left side. This is the apex of the heart, this is the left surface of the heart, this is the sternocostal surface of the heart, this is the inferior surface of the heart, and posteriorly the heart which is lies over the left atrium, major it is overlies over the left atrium and partly on the right atrium. So it is called the base of the heart. So now I will discuss about the transverse sinus. The transverse sinus, actually the heart itself, it is the single tube, it is a single straight tube, and it lead to, this is the arterial and this is the venous end, and it lead to there is a gradually this will fold, and in this fold which is close together, it lead to there is arterial and venous end which is come together, and it is suspended by the dorsal mesogastrium, dorsal mesocardium. This dorsal mesocardium which is degenerate, and it lead to there is a one sinus which is formed between the arterial and venous end. So this is the transverse sinus which is lies between the anteriorly there is a aorta and pulmonary trunk, and posteriorly you can see here this is the superior vena cava. So the behind to the forceps, my forceps which is passes from the transverse sinus. So the posteriorly it is bounded by the superior vena cava, anteriorly it is bounded by the aorta, and superiorly the transverse sinus which is end by the division of the pulmonary trunk into the two right and left pulmonary branches. Right, and this is the left pulmonary, and over that side this is the left pulmonary artery. So and above below it is end at the lower margin which is formed by the upper border of the left atrium, and on its side it is open inside the main pericardial cavity. Here you can see this is the main pericardial cavity which is open. This is a pericardial cavity. It is a finger inside the my pericardial cavity, so it is open inside the pericardial cavity. So you have to remember transverse sinus, above it is bounded by the bifurcation of the pulmonary trunk, anteriorly it is bounded by the aorta, posteriorly you can see this is a superior vena cava and also pulmonary veins, and inferiorly it is upper border of the left atrium. Here there is inferiorly it is bounded by the upper border of the left atrium, and on its side this transverse sinus open inside the main pericardial cavity. Now this is the anterior surface, now this is the inferior surface, now this is the posterior surface. So I will show you the this is the base of the, this is the completely base of the heart, and I will put into the anatomical position again into the base of the heart, and you can see now this base of the heart on the posterior aspect. You can see there is a one sinus, it is oblique sinus, it is also called the cul de sac. So because the one end which is the open and one end it is closed, so that's why it is called the cul de sac. So now This I will keep into the anatomical position of the opposite to the me. Here you can see this is the right side and this is the left side, and this is the posterior surface, and here this is the anterior surface. So because it lies on the posterior sides, I will show you boundaries. Here you can see these are the pulmonary vein. So the this oblique sinus, which is on the right side, which is bounded by the right pulmonary veins, and the left side, which is bounded by the left pulmonary veins, and superiorly it is bounded by the here the margin, superior margin, which is bounded by the blend, and it is end by the this parietal layer, which is continues as a visceral layer as it covers to the anterior surface of the left atrium. So anteriorly it is bounded by the left atrium. Here you can see, I will just remove the, you can see this is a left atrium. Here there is an anterior wall of the left atrium. So anteriorly it is bounded by the anterior wall of the left atrium. Above it is bounded by the upper margin, where there is this parietal peritoneum, which become continuous, which covering to the anterior wall of the left atrium, which is covered by the visceral layer. It continues as a visceral layer. Right, which is covered by the both the side by the right pulmonary vein, left, which is by the left pulmonary veins, and inferiorly again this sinus, which is continues as a it is into the main pericardial cavity. So inferiorly it is continues as a into the main pericardial cavity. So it is called as a call because it is the one end which is close, so that's why it is called the cul-de-sac or oblique sinus. Again I will show you the boundaries. This is the right side boundary, it is the right pulmonary vein, left side by the left pulmonary veins. Superiorly this parietal peritoneum. Outer side it is the fibrous, but inner side it is the parietal layer. So this parietal layer, which is goes upwards, inner side of the fibrous layer, and then it is goes downwards. I will just I just cut it, the fibrous pericardium. Here you can see I just cut it, and now you can see this inner side of the fibrous pericardium, which is lined by the parietal layer, and this parietal layer, which is continues at this level down, and it is covering to the anterior wall of the left atrium. So anteriorly it becomes parietal layer become continuous as a visceral layer. So the anterior boundary, which is by the anterior wall of the left atrium, anterior wall of the left atrium, it is the boundary of the end. Posteriorly it is bounded by the parietal layers. Here it is the inner layer of the fibrous pericardium. It is both are together. So it is posteriorly it is bounded by the parietal layer of the pericardium, but anteriorly it is bounded by the visceral layer, which covering to the anterior layer of the left atrium. Above it is this parietal layer become continues as a visceral layers, and below it continues as a into the side the main pericardial cavity, and right by the pulmonary vein, left by the left pulmonary veins. So this is the boundary of the oblique sinus. The nerve supply and the blood supply, the visceral pericardium, which is blood supply by the whatever the artery which supplies to the heart, it also supplies to the visceral layer, it is the coronary artery. While the fibrous and parietal layer of the pericardium, the arterial supply by the branches from the internal thoracic, branches on the inferior aspect by the branches coming from the thoracic aorta, which innervate to the blood supply. While the nerve supply, which is whatever the nerve which supplies to the visceral heart, it also supplies to the visceral pericardium. It is autonomic in nervous system. So the nerve supply, here autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, which is supplied by the from the thoracic segment, and parasympathetic supplied by the vagus nerve. While the parietal and fibrous pericardium and parietal layers, which is innervated by the phrenic nerve, and also it is a pain sensitive because it is the somatic in natures. Now, which are the clinical aspect of the pericardium? Whenever there is a collection of the excessive fluid between the pericardial cavity, normally it is 10 to 15 ml of the fluid which is lies inside the pericardial cavity, and it mainly act as a lubricant, and it prevents the friction during the heart beating. But whenever there is excessive collection of the fluid inside the pericardial cavity, it lead to there is a pericardial effusion. Pericardial effusion, it may be due to the congestive cardiac failure, pericarditis, it may be due to the tuberculosis and kidney failure and heart surgery. Another thing is the cardiac tamponade. It is a type of pericardial effusion that result in compression of the heart. It lead to there is a compression of the heart, and it lead to there is a inadequate filling of the heart, and this inadequate filling of the heart, it reduce the cardiac output. So the cardiac output reduce, and it reduce the ultimately it reduce the blood pressures, and ultimately there is a less amount of the cardiac output inside the cardiac tamponades. Sometimes there is a cyst occur inside the pericardial cavity. It is called the pericardial cyst. So this is about to the clinical aspect of the pericardium. And whenever we can there is a pericardial effusion, we remove the fluid from the pericardial cavity. It is called the pericardiocentesis. It is the aspiration of fluid from the pericardium. I will not explain in detail the procedures. Mainly it is the parasternal route. By the 5th or 6th intercostal space, you have to introduce under the ultrasound guidance, and you will remove the paracentesis to remove the pericardiocentesis, to removal of the pericardial fluids. This transverse sinus, clinical importance, it remains. So I will explain you this transverse sinus. It is passes between the arterial and venous end. So during any cardiac surgery, temporary ligations of the aorta or pulmonary trunk, we can ligate through to pass the thread from the transverse sinus, and we can ligate the temporary ligations of the great vessels of the heart. So this is the importance of the transverse sinus.